Hey, welcome to the I Like Birds podcast. My name is ZachRippey and I'm the host of the show. I had a great conversation with my friend Alexis Vasquez. We talked about all things, including her photography that she's been doing for years. It has just had a lot of impact on people's lives. We talk about the mission trip she's been on. We talk about her working for the Tim Tebow Foundation for the last 4 years. And we also dive deep on her book that she wrote called Heaven's Kitchen. And I loved hearing what she had to say about it, the inspiration behind it, and just waiting on God in a season of life where you're just being impatient. And it's just so good what we talk about, and I hope you enjoy the conversation. Do me a solid, if this is your first time here, please subscribe to the show. I think we got 7 subscribers right now. We just started doing YouTube videos. We've been on the podcast game for a while on all platforms. Check us out. Subscribe on Apple if you can, or Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And yeah, man, subscribe to the show because we got a lot of episodes in the past that were awesome and a lot of shows that are coming out and great interviews in the future as well. So we appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed this conversation that I had with my friend. And I also am going to put the link to her book in the description below. All right, I appreciate it.
Cool. How are you, friend?
Hey, I love the setup you have. I think it's so important when you have when you do a Zoom call that is going to be live on air that you have a nice little setting in the background. It makes it.
I tried. This chair doesn't usually sit on this side of my apartment, but I did it just for you.
Exactly. I appreciate it. How are you?
I'm good. I'm chill. I'm off of work for a few weeks, so I'm feeling pretty good.
That's perfect. A few weeks?
A few weeks. Because I didn't go anywhere this year, so no traveling, so I had so much PTO to use.
Yeah, that's amazing. Where are you at, by the way, with work?
I work as the marketing and events manager at Boys and Girls Clubs of Tampa Bay.
Okay.
Yeah, so we haven't had so many events this year, but luckily it kind of moved more into what I love to do, which is more the marketing and communications. Makes sense since I like to write and tell stories. So
yeah,
it's kind of too bad. Yeah.
Did you kind of fall into that, or was it an opportunity that kind of presented itself, or did you kind of seek that and find and get that?
With Boys and Girls Club, it was actually they came to me. The director of advancement at the time, she knew of me through social media,
Mm-hmm.
and she was like a friend of my. Her husband worked with my dad, and she was just had her eye on me, and she was like, "I want you on my team." And I was like, "I've never done events or any of this stuff," and I just didn't feel qualified at all. And she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And so I took the leap, and, I said, I've always worked with international nonprofits, and this was a great opportunity to work, domestically in my city. So
Absolutely.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a heart for Boys and Girls Club because that's where I went, throughout middle school.
Oh, you did? Oh,
Yeah.
you're a kid. I love that.
Yeah, so it really just kind of I formed a lot of good friendships. I played on the basketball team. We traveled with the Boys and Girls Club. It was definitely a good spot to be in for a youth like me. And I grew up in Fort Lauderdale area, so being in that kind of setting was really healthy instead of my neighborhood all the time. So
Yeah.
it was good. So that's awesome. So you love it, I assume?
Yeah, I do. I sometimes, as the type of person I am, I'm always like, is there more? Can I do more? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it is more of a traditional work setting than I'm used to. I'm used to being a free spirit, working from home, that type of thing, and working at my own pace. And so the structure has been harder to get used to. But I've grown so much in this last year because I've been there for a year now. And so I just know that God's going to use the things that I'm learning now to propel me into whatever's next, whenever that is. So
exactly. Yeah. You've always given me, the free spirit vibe, the freelance vibe. You've definitely did your own side hustles and businesses since I've known you. And that's kind of how we met. Is you took so many beautiful pictures of Nicole and I, and then also Nicole, Noah and I, and then just Noah. And then I think we did 5 photo shoots with you, and you just always came through with solid deals and just great pictures. It's crazy. It's crazy the impact that you can have on a family, because some of our best pictures of our son are through your lens, and I think that's so cool, and you should be proud of that. Are you still doing photography?
Oh, yeah. In fact, I started doing it a lot more in this season. Christmas time is always a very popular time, but I haven't really marketed it as much as I used to. And so to continue to get calls from people and emails has been such a blessing.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I do it, I'm like, this is my first love. I love to capture stories, like you said, to follow a family through all of their, ups and downs, and through kids and marriage. all of that is just such a privilege to me because, even if I'm never in the picture again for that family, like they still have those photos and that matters to me. So
That's
I love
so
to
cool.
continue to shoot. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I remember you were doing a lot of mission work. Was that in kind of, was that alluding to your photography business when you were doing those things?
Yeah. So, I was back in high school when I met you, I was doing just like families and weddings and all that good stuff. And then when I was 19, I had the opportunity to go to Kenya, and I know Africa is close to your heart too. So that was my first like mission trip. Before that, I had only ever gone to like Cuba and Puerto Rico because that's where I'm from. So going to Africa for the first time, I obviously took my camera, shot pictures for the organization I went with, and then they ended up saying, hey, like, can we use some of your photos in our marketing? And I was like, oh wait, I could like do this for like a living. And it kind of opened up other opportunities to do it for other nonprofits. I started working with the Tim Tebow Foundation, shooting some of their events. And that led to me working in Haiti and Costa Rica and Philippines and all these other places. So it's been quite the adventure for sure.
Yeah, it sounds like it. That's amazing. And so I remember you meeting Tim Tebow.
Yeah, I did. That was like 6 years ago.
That was like a dream for you, right? You loved Tim Tebow, right?
I did. Yes, I do. I still do. But in high school, it was so funny because I had all these haters who were like, "You're never gonna meet Tim Tebow. Like, just give it up." And then I ended up shooting this event for like 4 years back to back, and became one of their like lead photographers for his biggest fundraiser of the year. So that was pretty cool, and I met so many great people through that opportunity.
Yeah, it definitely seems like God opened that door for you and you ran right through it head on.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Total God thing.
Yeah, that's amazing. How's your relationship with God been during this season of COVID?
Oof, let me see. It's been all over the place. It's, there were times at the beginning where I was like, as an introvert naturally, which people always assume that I'm not introverted, but I actually am. And so to have that time away where I didn't have to put up an excuse or like, oh, I can't hang out, like, just make an excuse to hang out. I was so excited to be with Jesus, like just Jesus, and just kind of dive into it. I honestly didn't think that it would go past like the spring or the summer. And so I was fine during that time. I focused on little projects that I hadn't had a chance to really devote to, because I was home so much. And then in the summer, it kind of like went kind of lax. And then it picked back up again. And it's kind of like this constant, hills and valleys of just being all in. And then sometimes like, for whatever reason, just getting tired and burnt out and just having to ignite that flame again, whether it's through worship or painting. Sometimes like that's how I feel closest to God, is when I create, because I see him as the ultimate creator. So it's just being creative, like, okay, God, I need to do something here.
Yeah, I like that you said that, because I'm feeling the same way, especially since I had to go back to work and I started doing the open mics I run to start making money again. And it definitely seems like with Malachi getting older and just more sleeping less and just being around the house and whatnot, it definitely feels, and I'm in school right now. I just finished my first semester. So it definitely feels like limited time for God, and I can't stand that. I really enjoyed, the time just straight with Jesus, and just straight learning and loving and just telling people about him, doing the podcast and just being excited about that pretty much only, And as much as I'm still like excited about it, that fire was so much more like burning, when it was just like I had that time to like let it burn and just let it go there. And now it's like, which I think it's good for us to kind of, not like force ourselves to make that time, but still make it a priority. I think that there's a learning experience in that, and that kind of just shows your faithfulness to trying to get back to that,
Yeah.
And there's a song that I forget the name of it, but basically talks about like, I'm sorry for all the times I've just gone through the motions, and I just want to get back to you. So do you know what I'm talking? What song I'm talking about?
Yeah. What song is that? Because now it's like at my tongue. I think it's by United Pursuit. I think that's the one. I don't know. Now you're gonna drive me crazy thinking about it. But
yeah, I'll find it. I'll find it and I'll put it in the episode notes for not only you and I, but just for the people out there that want to hear it. It's really good, and talks about just like being in the presence of of Jesus. He just wants that. Like, that's all you need is that, you know? So I think it's good for us to like have those seasons of like, man, we're so busy, but we're still finding time. And I love that you said that about the creativity part, because that's why I love this podcast so much. That's why I love writing so much, and just working on like anything possible to kind of bring people to God, you know? And I think that you've been a big voice of that as well, not just with your photography and your missions work, but your devotional. Let's talk about that a little bit. Hold it up for me real quick, just so I can see
I
it.
got it right here.
Beautiful. Heaven's Kitchen. And I remember reading that before I was even kind of like, I would consider myself a lukewarm Christian when I read that. And I remember reading it and thinking, man, you have like you have a gift for telling people about your testimony and what you've experienced. And even just how I love that the vulnerability that you had in that. And I just think that it kind of inspired me to kind of just be my most vulnerable self in the future. You know, it was kind of like a seed for me to when I write my episodes, to share stuff that's kind of like, whoa, I didn't know that about you, but that's crazy, you know? And awesome. I highly recommend it for everybody that's listening to go check it out. It's on Amazon. You can get it there, correct?
Yes, Amazon. Yep.
Yep. And is that the main publishing? Is that what you use to publish it?
Yes, Amazon made it super easy and convenient, and it was just the best option for any young writer who just kind of wants to build their platform. And Amazon's been really great to work with.
That's amazing to hear. Yeah, because I've been doing some research on that, because I'm also, you know, I'm always writing. So I'm currently, you know, thinking my next move and whatnot, whether it be a book or a devotional as well. And I haven't really, you're the only devotional I've actually ever read. I've always seen them passed out at like church, and I've always like looked through them, but I'm like, man, I don't need this. I'll just go to the word, you know? But like, because you were my friend, I wanted to hear what you had to say. And I think yours is different than your average devotional, because it's so like, you have so much like content in there with the recipes that you give, and then the scripture that you give mixed with like your life. I think it's bigger than a devotional. And I do recommend anybody out there listening to go get one, because it definitely is a seed for you. Tell me like what inspired you to do that book.
Yeah, it's funny. So this time, it was December 26th, 3 years ago. Me and my family, this is a crazy story. I've always like been one to like struggle with waiting on God. I think most people do, but naturally it's just been something that I've just been more impatient with. I don't know how to wait on God or surrender things to him. And so we were at this German pub called Mr. Dunderbox, me and my family, after Christmas. And we super random. This is like, God will use anything. So we were there, and for some reason it took like an abnormally like long amount of time for us to get our food. And like, we were hungry, we were tired, we had just like gone through all the holiday stuff of cooking, so we weren't trying to cook or anything. And people were like all around us tired of waiting for their food, and they were like, can we get a free beer for waiting so long, and where's the, you know, and like the service kept coming back around and being like, we're so sorry, we're like down in the kitchen, we're understaffed, we're so sorry. And so in that moment, I like got this image of like, I wonder what God feels like when we're like down here and he's up there doing his thing, preparing whatever it is that he's preparing for us. And we're like, yo, God, like, where is it? Come on, like rushing him. And, you know, without really knowing what it all entails for whatever it is he's putting together for us. And so that was kind of what sparked the writing process. And then, you know, I went through like this delayed obedience, which is just disobedience, where I was like, nah, you know, I'm not going to write a book. It's like, that's too big for me, and I got nothing to say. And I just kept feeling that nudge. And so little by little, I wrote it. I ended up taking a trip to Italy in one of the lowest like seasons of my life, where I was just so depressed and tired of waiting on God for certain things. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to do something super dramatic. I'm going to go to Italy and I'm going to finish writing this book. And that's what I did. And through, you know, learning about the cooking process and what it takes to prepare things and lay things out in a kitchen for like a great meal, I started to realize little pieces, like connect that with how God is just so intentional as we wait at his table and whatever it is that he's preparing for us.
Ooh, that's so good. Okay. I love that. I think it's gangster. You went to Italy to finish the book. Like, I'm so hyped, and I just think that's beautiful. And also like, you know, a lot of the book kind of entails about like, you know, your future husband and whatnot, and the family that you're going to build one day, and he's going to be the perfect perfect husband for you, because it's going to be that patient of waiting for that great meal to be prepared, you know? And also it's like, man, when you look at that, as far as like what God does in those seasons of you being patient, it's like you produced a book that had influence on people, you know? And, you know, you might find out what that influence is, you know, slowly but surely. And I think that like over time, it's just going to be, you know, you're going to keep seeing that fruit from that first book that you wrote. And it might even propel you to write a second book when that waiting game is over, you know, and being
Right,
a
a
testament.
sequel.
Yeah, a sequel. You know, like how the meal tasted, you know, and
I love it.
yeah, so I think you're on the right path, and I think it's awesome that you wrote that book. And it's just inspiring because I'm a writer, so like hearing your story about that really just kind of like, you know, adds fuel to my fire in regards to that. And man, I'm just pumped for you, and I just think it's awesome. Have you what are some things you've heard from other people about the book that's been influential or just motivational for you?
Yeah, it's all been like, you know, and it's always funny because, you know, I'll get messages from the most random people or reviews at the most random times that aren't so random, because I'll be like really low or doubting myself, and God will like show me that like, no, like you, like I gave you this for a purpose, and I'm still using this, and you still have a purpose, and, you know, I'm not done with this yet. And so, you know, what's so great is that even though for me, it kind of the inspiration of it stemmed from this place of singleness and waiting, you know, never really having dated or anything, it really reached people far and wide for whatever it was that they were waiting for. You know, some people, you know, have kids who are sick with cancer and they're waiting for a healing, or some people, you know, want to have a baby and haven't been able to, and some people are waiting for a job opportunity. And so to hear from so many people, young, old, men, women, like, you know, about how it spoke to them in their season of waiting, it just meant so much to me, because ultimately we're all waiting on the Lord. We're waiting for his ultimate return. We're waiting to end up in eternity with him. So it just kind of makes me feel better to know that I'm not the only one who struggles with waiting on God. So it's just been awesome to see just how it affects and touches people differently all over the place. Because I get messages from like, I'm like, how did you even hear about it? And they're like, well, I was like looking for kitchen supplies on Amazon, and like somehow your book came up in the suggested. I'm like, what the heck, man?
All right, cool. Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah, I'm gonna roll with it. So
how was the editing process? Did you send it off to somebody that you know, or was it a stranger?
You know, I asked around, one of my teachers in high school. I don't know if you had Miss Kramer, but she actually wasn't even my teacher. She just knew of me and knew I liked to write. And she had published a Christian book a few years ago. And so I reached out to her saying, hey, do you know any Christian editors? And she sent me one that lived in Georgia, and she reviewed my book. It was a hard thing for me to do because I'm a super sensitive person naturally, and a vulnerable person. So I knew I was like handing over a baby to just kind of be like torn apart and whatever. But it was not as bad as I thought. You know, she really encouraged me to I mean, she loved my writing, and she said that I had this very descriptive way of explaining something that people usually wouldn't like go into the depths of. And so so it just helped me grow as a writer too, to like take that constructive criticism and learn things about just, you know, writing that I had never thought about.
That's awesome. So when she sent it back, it wasn't like marked up completely. It was just kind of a couple notes and whatnot.
It was, yeah. I mean, most of the stuff that she marked up were all just little grammatical things. Like it wasn't even anything about my writing, which was good too, because I didn't want someone to sometimes when you know, what I've heard is when you go to like an actual publisher, you know, they will try to manipulate your words to be whatever they want to market. And I didn't want that to happen. I just honestly wanted to get my story out there. I wasn't like, I didn't go into it with intentions of making lots of money or becoming a bestseller. Like I just wanted to encourage people with like what I really believe God gave me to speak to people, because, you know, even though I've always loved writing, nothing flowed out of me quite as naturally as writing this devotional. So I knew it was him, and I didn't want like, you know, man's too many opinions to come in and like change.
Yeah. And I think I'm so glad that you said, do you know any Christian editors? Because I think that's huge, because you really want somebody that has like a good relationship with God to be the one reading and kind of like editing your work, you know, because, you know, you don't want I'm not saying like, Christian editor or above a regular editor
Right.
that's not Christian, but at the same time, you want somebody that's kind of on that same spiritual journey that you're on,
Yeah,
to kind of,
exactly.
so I really like that you said that. And it's a good note for me in the future and whatnot as well, which is awesome. I'm learning a lot on this podcast. But
Good.
yeah, so I'm really glad you're here right now. And, yeah, I'm actually going to put your link for your book in the episode notes as well for everybody that's listening to go check it out and get them one. That'd be a great Christmas present for some families and friends, I feel like, personally. Stocking stuffer. And I love your cover, by the way. Who did the cover art?
Thank you. So the cover actually so the background is from my friend Morgan Harper Nichols. A lot of people actually know of her account. So she has like a massive following on Instagram where she creates like these encouraging words over graphics like this. And she has grown so much that I knew her back when I lived in Dallas, and we went to the same church and everything. And I remember her even telling me about this dream that she had to put together like content on Instagram to share with people and encourage people. And then she like just blew up. I moved back to Tampa. She moved, I think, to California, and she started this page. And so when I reached out to her about my cover, I didn't think she'd even get back to me, to be honest. And she did, and she gave me a few mock-ups, and yeah, and that's what I went with. And I love it, and people seem to love it. So
yeah, it's beautiful. It's definitely, I don't know. I feel like if I saw that in the store, I would buy it without even knowing you, just because I just feel like it's simple, and I love that simple look too. Like, and do you feel like you'll ever go back and you'll read it one day?
Heaven's Kitchen. Oh yeah. I definitely, I think it's time that I go back and read it.
just to get you back in there, back in the kitchen.
Yeah, back in there. Yeah, exactly. Because I don't know. I was actually reading parts of it the other day. I was like, "Ooh, dang, that's good, God. I didn't write that." Like,
yeah, that's you. That's the spirit of you. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I'm gonna I want to lead like a virtual like book study again, which I did back in February. So come the new year, I'll probably reread it anyway, just to kind of refamiliarize myself with my writing and all that.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, when you were when we were speaking, I think you put it up on Instagram something about you having like writer's block. Have you found ways to get past that in the recent months since we've spoken about it?
Yeah. And you had a great point. You were like, just get in the word, bro. And I was like, yeah. Yeah, I'll do that. So, and it's just like, sometimes it goes back to that, when sometimes you're just like on fire and you have all this time to just sit with the Lord. And I was losing that time, like, where even when I spent time with him in the morning, I would just in the back of my mind be like, oh my gosh, but I got to get ready for work. Like, I got to go do this. And that makes it so hard to like just really sit in what you're reading.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've had to like train my mind to be intentional about like just pushing everything else to the side. Like everything else can wait.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've just keep writing is just like, and I found like little prompts here and there, and that kind of triggered stuff. And then the more I read in the word, the more I was like, okay, he's giving me things. He's downloading things. I can like reflect on this and write again.
Yeah.
So it's gotten a little better since we last chatted about that.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, I always felt like, I'll be honest, I don't really struggle with writer's block ever. I just feel like I'm just, at least right now, I got a lot to say. I think that's kind of, I don't think that's going to be changed anytime soon. But I have found myself, because I am working on a book, and I found myself, when my buddy Armani passed, I was like, right before that, I was working on it very well, like consistently. But then like that season of life hit where it was just kind of like super hard to, because like I was in the beginning of the book, where it's kind of like talking about my story of as far as like the faith journey. And I don't know, I really am big on like a positive vibe of my writing, in best way I can. So I was like working on like the positive aspect of like the beginning of my faith journey. And then when that happened, I don't know, I just felt like my mind was kind of like fluttered with a lot of like different emotions and whatnot. I didn't really feel like it was right to put that in the book at that time, right in that kind of headspace. So I do feel like a lot of like the fact that you went to Italy to write the book, you kind of like set that in your mind and whatnot. And I feel like I need to do something like that as well, where it's kind of like, all right, I'm dedicating this month to working on this specifically, So it's kind of good that all that happened. I kind of got to identify that. But as far as the writing block thing, I do feel also, though, when it comes to the writer's block, when it comes to a book, I feel like you probably can attest to this. You have to be very intentional of what your purpose is for writing that book, kind of like an outline, but also like a focal point. So like it's easy to get kind of off track of kind of what you're trying to communicate with people, because like there's a lot of information, like when you said you went in depth about certain things, I'm the same way, but also you got to bring it back in to what your mission is for the book.
Yeah, no, that's probably one of the harder things too. And I think that's why I struggle to, because, when I say writer's block, it's not like I'm writing a short story or like a fiction type piece. When you start digging into God's word and you're like, okay, well, what does this mean? And like, where is this connected to? And it's like, there's so many moving parts to it. It can be hard to like bring it all together, or to not go too far down one path that you get lost in it and you don't know how to bring it back for everyone else to kind of see what your intention was.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but it's also kind of fun, because I see the Bible as something that is like, it's just not surface level. Like, it's just like what it says is like, just the beginning. And then you start digging deeper into like the root and the cultural, like historical context of the time. And you're just like mind blown by all the things that he has to say. So
yeah, and I'm learning so much about that in my first semester of Bible college, about the narrative and like what the author was intended, who he was speaking to. And a lot of times, like especially with Paul, he's my favorite writer. It's like we only know one side of the conversation,
Exactly.
So that's interesting too, because you don't really get to see what happens as far as what happens, to the church in like when you wrote Corinthians, you don't get to see like what they had to say about it. You just kind of see like, so it's difficult to decipher at times, but it's also just the most fascinating, most brilliant thing ever written. So I always say the Bible is the only book that ever speaks back to you. And I just feel like that's why when I was like, yo, get in the word, because like it'll talk to you, and then you can just you can talk back, you can write your own word, so no, that's awesome. I'm so glad that you had all that to say about your book, and because I've always been, when I read it, I was fascinated with it, and it's just so cool. You can come on the show and talk about it and what God's done in your life. Let me ask you this though: what's next for you? Like, what do you think is next? What's your vision? What's your plans?
Oh man, that's a good question. A lot of people keep asking me if I'm going to write a second book. And, to be honest, like that hasn't been something that's really stirred. Like maybe in the future, yeah, possibly. I can totally see it happening. But right now I'm really trying to just figure it out. And that's why I have been writing, just to kind of see if God speaks to me through my writing into what that next step looks like for me. But everything has just been like, just keep creating, Lex. Like, that's what I keep telling myself. That's what I keep hearing from him, is just keep creating. It'll come. It always has. And like everything, because I can be so, like I can have so many dreams, and I could be like, I want to do this, and I want to start a vineyard in Italy, and I want to like go here and pick olives, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. And he's just like, just chill, like just be obedient and faithful with where you're at, and like I'll open the next door. And it's so true, because like every time I've been waiting for another door to open, whether it's a job or the next like God opportunity or whatever, like it's never been like a forceful open. It's not like I'm sitting there knocking and trying to pull out a door that wasn't meant for me. It always opens like very seamlessly and by surprise. And so I'm just like in this weird place. I don't know if this makes sense, where I'm like, I'm trying to be still, but I'm also I'm actively waiting on the Lord for whatever that looks like. So I'm seeking him, I'm writing, I'm creating, I'm loving people. I am trying to be a better friend in this season where there is more isolation and you have to be more intentional with your relationships. So yeah, that was a long answer, but
and I appreciate that, because I like how you basically said slow down, and you're in a season of being slowed down. I think that's how you connect with God the most, and I feel like that's where you see the next door in the clearest vision. Because I actually just did an episode, the last one that I recorded before this one, about I went to Michigan for 6 days, and it was just so interesting the way they live out there. It was like Southwest Michigan. It was like my buddy has 27 acres of land, and it was just, we were doing bonfires, chopping wood, going to the grocery store every couple of days to get just what we needed for that night, cooking outside, home cooked meals, and just looking at the sky and seeing the stars and just connecting with God. We went out in the woods and we like hunted for deer, even though we didn't see anything. We just I appreciated just going out there and hearing the wind like touch against the trees and push it all around. And it's like, I just feel like when you connect with God on that way, it kind of recalibrates you to focus in on kind of what you need to do next. And also what you need to do next a lot of times is just kind of sit and just be with God and just figure it out, And I like that you said that because it's so true, especially around the holidays where it's like, it's like family, it's friends, it's good times, it's celebration of Jesus' birthday. And have you seen The Chosen, by the way?
Oh yes, love that show. So good.
So
I'm
good.
a fan. Yeah.
All right, cool. Just wanted to make sure because I just watched the Christmas one yesterday again.
Same.
And yeah, really? Oh, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. I loved. It was like traditional storytelling mixed with like this unique approach. I loved it. Yeah.
So I highly recommend that for everyone listening. The Chosen. You can see it on YouTube and also their website. They're also selling like the DVDs right now. So you can, get the DVDs or you can do a stocking stuffer, and all the proceeds actually go to funding like season 2 and season 3 because it's all not done in Hollywood, which I love that because it's just people that are just Christians out here just trying to make people hear who Jesus was and who his disciples were. And I love the way they break that down on there. So that's so cool. You watched the show. I'm so excited.
For
sure.
I
feel like it's low key, so that's awesome. But
it is.
All right, Alexis Vasquez, I'll definitely be plugging your book in the episode notes. Thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about it. Where can the people find you on Instagram? What's your handle?
Alexis Ascends. That's my word. Ascend. Continue to go higher with God. So that's kind of where that came from. But yeah,
I like
Alexis Ascends. Yeah.
I like that a lot. I didn't know that. I didn't know that was the reason you chose that.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
My word. Yeah.
I like that. Well, good luck with everything in your future endeavors, and I hope the book sales continue to come in and the impact it's still had over the years of life. And I appreciate you coming on, and I'll send you the date this will be released, okay?
Okay, awesome. Thanks for having me, Zach. Merry Christmas.
Thank you. Merry Christmas. Tell your mom I said hi, okay?
For sure.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I hope you enjoyed the conversation me and Alexis had. Again, if you want to check out her book, please do so. It's going to be in the description. It's called Heaven's Kitchen. If you didn't catch it the first few times we said it, if you want to buy it for yourself or just a gift for somebody else or just to support her, please do. And check her out on Instagram at Alexis Ascends. And also, don't forget to subscribe to this podcast if this is your first time here. We talk all things Jesus, jokes, and a little bit of country. All right, y'all. We just growing our faith together. And thank you for being here this week. I hope you guys have a great Christmas and a happy holiday. Have a good Christmas.